Hey everybody, my name is Martin Williams and I wanted to welcome you to the Guided Expressions channel. I wanted to start doing more content on this channel to just really share a lot of the things that I've been thinking about and working on, and really just to help people navigate this unusual time that we're living in our society today with COVID-19, and a lot of people are going through a recession. A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are going through transition. We're just living in a different world, and we need to have a level of just more, I think, awareness about the laws of life, universal laws, and all of these things. And I think it's important that we, just work on that, work on, our mindset, the way that we think, work on what we do on a daily basis. How do we show up in life? How do we pursue that which is important to us? So that is going to be at the heart of my content. It may seem like I'm going here and there and everywhere, but there's a common thread in my content, and I think the longer you listen, the more you'll see that common thread. So today what I wanted to do is talk about, where do I stand? Now, when people ask that question, where do I stand, it's usually asking a person, where are we as people? Where are we as friends? Where are we in a relationship? Where are we as business partners? Where do I stand? But in this particular example, I'm going to talk about, where do I stand in relation to my goals, right? If I have a goal, if I have a goal, let's say to lose a certain amount of weight by the end of the year, or, maybe I have a goal to get out of debt, or to increase my income, or to go from a job to a business. Where do I stand with that? And if I'm not where I want to be in relation to my goal, and I've had this goal for a significant amount of time, then I've got to look within. I've got to look within myself, and more specifically my mindset. What have I been thinking all this time? If I've had this goal for, let's say, 3-4 years, and I haven't made any significant progress in that goal, what's going on up here? Because that's going to really shift everything in relation to my goal, right? So when we ask the question, where do I stand? I got 3 main points that I want to share with you today. It's kind of like a sermon. Pastors have these these 3 main points, and then the benediction. We're not going to do a benediction. I will be praying for you, but we're not going to do a benediction today. But 3 main points here, right? First one is, successful people think from their goals, not of them. The second one is, I'm going to share a real life example, and then the third one is going to be action steps / reminders. So let's hop to it. So the main point here is that successful people think from their goals, not of them, right? So, for example, I want to, let's say I want to buy a house, right? If I'm thinking from the point of renting, or maybe living with somebody, but not of actually owning a house, right? My mind is generating from the place I am, okay? If I go to New York, like we recently went to New York. We live in Florida, but we went to New York a few weeks ago, okay? My mindset is different in New York than it is in Florida, because for one, it's a lot quieter here than it is in New York. 2, all of the things that we're used to in Florida, most of that's not in New York, right? 3, the people that are here aren't up in New York. So my mindset, and it goes on and on and on, but my point is that my mindset is different in New York than it is in Florida because my surroundings are different. I got to navigate differently, right? New York, you got a lot of public transportation because it's expensive to, park your car, and you got tolls, and you got all these different things you got to think about. So when I think from the place of where I am, right, there's different thoughts that come to mind. Like when we were in New York, I had to buy a Metro card. When we were in New York, I had to get a co-working space so I could do my work because, where I was at my mom's house, and, my mom and my sister, like, they're very, they're very welcoming, they're very sweet and kind and everything else. And, but there's just a lot of noise. And, my wife was there and my daughter was there too. So it's like, this is a lot going on at one time. And, there's a time where I need quiet, I need to work, and it was just not working. So I had to find a co-working space, and it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. But again, I had to think differently. Okay. When you rent a house, you think differently than when you buy a house. Okay. So if you are a homeowner, you're thinking in terms of homeowners insurance. You're thinking in terms of upkeep. You're thinking in terms of property taxes. You're thinking in terms of the home prices, right? And you might say, well, I'm renting right now. Why do I have to think about that? The reason you want to think about that is because one day you do want to become a homeowner. So you want to start thinking like a homeowner. You think like a homeowner before you sign the papers. Okay? You think like a homeowner before you get the key, right? And get, and everything that comes with buying a house. You think like a homeowner now. You don't wait until you get the house. That's, to me, it's too late at that point. It's much better to start thinking about it before you get it. And what's interesting is that that's how manifestation works. When you think from the place that you want to be, it starts manifesting in your life, and it manifests in ways that you can never predict. And I'm going to share with you an example. But I want you to get this main point here. Think from the goal. Whatever your goal is, if you want to weigh 25 pounds less than you weigh now, think from that place. Think as if you weigh whatever that number is, right? Because when you start thinking that way, the mind begins to rewire itself. And in the rewiring of your mind, you start making different decisions. You start doing different things. Okay, you start drinking more water and less soda. You start eating more baked and broiled food than fried food. You start cooking more instead of going out more. You start walking more instead of sitting on the couch all day. You start pushing yourself at the gym than, just kind of coasting at the gym. You get where I'm going with this? The mind is rewiring itself, is reworking itself. And you are thinking differently. And when you start thinking differently, you start acting differently. And when you start acting differently, you start getting different things. So the real world example I wanted to share, the real world example I wanted to share had to do with going back to school. So I have a master's degree now, but a couple of years ago, I didn't have one, right? I started a master's program in counseling, and, it was going pretty well, but, how life kind of starts happening. And even though I was working, my wife and I, we weren't together at the time. We have a child, and, we were basically co-parenting, living in different houses. So I basically had to, I was paying, child support and whatnot, and that was really affecting my budget, right? And I wasn't making a lot of money at the time on top of that. So, I had rent and everything else, right? So there wasn't any money for school. Okay. And so I had to stop going. And in the midst of that, in the midst of having to like stop going, the school that I was going to said, well, because you've been out for this length of time, all your credits, well, not all my credits, but a good deal of my credits were no longer valid. So all of these classes that I had, did the work in, wrote papers, gave presentations, all the work out the door, gone. All right. So I could not pursue that degree at that school anymore. So I said, this is not, it just wasn't something that sat well with me. It wasn't acceptable to me. So, I prayed and I was, just asking God, like, God, what do I do and whatnot? And there was like a desire in me to really finish. I wanted to finish this degree. Okay. And so I said, well, let me contact the school and see what I can work out. There's got to be something I can do. So I called the school and I spoke with them and, calling and emailing. And in the midst of it, they said, well, here's what you can do. We can put you in this other track to be a coach, like a life coaching track. You get to keep your credits, some of your credits. Some of your credits will transfer over to that new degree, but you'll only have to take, I think it ended up being 4 to 5 classes. It wasn't a lot. It basically, I was able to finish within 4 to 5 months. And then on top of that, I was able to pay for it. Okay. Now, how was I able to pay for it? I began to write affirmations from the place of having my degree. I didn't write affirmations to get the money. I didn't write affirmations to get back in school. I didn't write affirmations to do any of that. I went all the way to the end. What is the end goal? The end goal was to get my degree. So I went to the end goal and said, I have my master's degree. I have my master's degree, right? And I'm so happy that I have my master's degree. And I just kept saying that. Day by day, I would just say, I'm so happy I have my master's degree. Have my master's degree. And then I found this website where you can like design a degree, like a fake degree. So I went to this website. I was able to design this fake degree. I put my name on it, put the school's name on it. I put what the degree was for. And then I created an image of it. And I looked at that image every day. Now, for someone who doesn't understand manifestation, I look a little cuckoo, right? But I understand manifestation. I understand how manifestation works. And so I kept like looking at that picture every day. I kept saying it. I kept saying, I have my degree. I have my degree. I have my degree. And then I started like putting feeling behind that affirmation. Just saying it is one thing, but when you put feeling behind it, that's when it really begins to affect your subconscious, and it gets into like your heart. And once you decide, once it gets into your heart, it's like the power gets revved up like times 100, times 1,000. And all of these things began to happen. Like I got a better paying job. I was let go from a job that they never lay people off, right? They said when I got the job, they said they hadn't laid off anybody in almost 10 years. But they laid me off, right? They laid two other people off as well. But I said, it's funny, but the thing is, when it happened, I wasn't upset. I wasn't like, worried or anything like that. I really wasn't. I really had a great deal of peace about everything. I think because I knew that I knew that in order for me to get a better job, I had to let that one go. But I didn't have enough faith at the time to let that job go in order to get another one, right? So I got another job within, it only took about maybe 2 months. And then about a month after that, I got another job to replace that job because it paid much more than what I was making at that previous job. And so with that increase in income, I was able to afford school. I took a really long trip to get to that. Because of that income increase, I was able to finish school, and I was able to graduate, and I got my master's degree. I got it right over here. As a matter of fact, I should have took it out, but yeah, I got it. Trust me. Maybe one day I'll bring it out. But my point in all this is I went from having no money, having no degree, being out of school basically, to going back, getting my degree. And, there's no sense of loss because in order for me to be a counselor, I would have had to do 2 years of supervised experience and then another 60, it's 60 hours, I think. No, something like 3,000 hours of just, experience. And I didn't have the time for that. So I decided to get into coaching. Coaching is a much better fit for what I want to do. And it just makes more sense. So I took a really long trip to explain that to you. Now, please excuse the typos, by the way. What are the action steps here? The first thing you want to do is that you really want to pay attention to how you think. Because I think too many people, they think on autopilot, right? And then you have all these different things influencing your thinking, whether it's TV shows, social media, family, friends, whatever the case may be, and all of those influences may not be positive, and they may not be life-giving, and they may not be in line with what it is you truly want. All right? If you're surrounded by negative people, it's very difficult to think positive. It's simple, right? So pay really close attention to how you think. And if you want to get to a certain place, you got to think from it. You got to think, okay, I am now who I want to be, right? I am, if you want to be employed, if you're out of work right now, and I've done this many times, I would think from the place of being employed, right? I would give myself an email address at the job I wanted, including the current one that I have now. This is like the best job I've ever had. Okay? And I wanted this job, and they wanted me. But what I did was that I gave myself an email address at that job, martinwilliams at suchandsuch.com, right? And I would look at that. I look at it real hard every day, right? I saw myself there. I saw myself at that place. I saw myself in that mode. And I've done it over and over and over and over and over again. And I've gotten jobs. Sometimes some jobs were probably a little more than I was qualified for at the time, to be perfectly honest. But I got on a job and I did fine, right? Because it's all in how you think, okay? If you want to, be in a certain place in a relationship, think from the place of being in a relationship, right? Think about the types of things you want to do with the person that you end up dating, right? Think about, the types of conversations and the types of activities. Really think about that. Okay, this stuff works. I know it seems a little space age, but trust me, it works. Okay? Now, thinking is very important, but step 2, take action. Do one thing a day on the way to your goal. For me, it was, when I was getting ready to go back to school, I would go online and I would look at the courses I wanted to take. This is when I had no money. I didn't have any money to take anything, right? But I took the time to look at my courses. Okay, this is the course I want to take. I want to take this course, right? I thought about, the path I wanted to take beyond the degree. Like once I got the degree, once I manifested, okay, what did I want to do with the degree? And I really started thinking long and hard about what I wanted to do with the degree. And I wrote out a whole plan. This is before I started. This is before I had the money, right? But this is what it takes, okay? When you start thinking that way and then start acting in the direction of your goal, it accelerates everything. And then the third thing is, don't get overwhelmed, right? A lot of people get overwhelmed because they're trying to make everything happen now, right? And that's not how life always works. It can happen fast. Like I would say from the time I started to the time I actually got back in school was probably a period of maybe 2 to 3 months. Like it was very, very short in, relatively speaking. So don't get overwhelmed and don't try to do everything in one day, right? Allow the process of life to kind of take its time, but just be consistent. If I'm making sense here, be consistent with what it is that you really want to do, and be consistent in your activity. And this stuff, whatever it is you want to see manifest in your life is going to happen. And it's not going to take as long as you think. Okay? So I want to thank you for tuning in to the Guided Expressions podcast, the Guided Expressions channel, where I also place podcasts here. But please like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Hopefully it helped. And, if you're a creator and you want to join Project 365, use this hashtag, use the Project 365 hashtag, and, just post and, let's go big for the rest of 2020. 2020 has been heavy so far. It's kind of caught us all a little bit off guard, but let's get back on track and let's, go in the direction of our goals. And I will talk to you soon.